Let's get into this xDefiant video. The rise and fall of xDefiant. Why did season 1 flop? Sure. I'll tell you right now, the reason xDefiant freaking has flopped has mostly been because one, that the hacker problem was so big. A lot of people had a mass exodus from the game because of hackers. The second reason xDefiant has kind of had like a loss of player count was generally because the Black Ops 6 beta started. People are going to go play Call of Duty. That's like that. No matter what you do with your shooter, people are going to go play Call of Duty. That's just how this works.
COD killing is in some really rough waters right now. So many creators, including myself, have ultimately dropped the game for good. But why? A little over a week ago, reports came out from Tom Henderson saying xDefiant can barely maintain 20,000 concurrent players across all platforms, which of course include PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. This is honestly crazy to think about because when xDefiant first launched, it shattered records at Ubisoft by exceeding 1 million unique players at launch and over 8 million players during its first week. But now,
You know what I would
Ubisoft is
also say about xDefiant? This is gonna be like a very underrated comment to make. xDefiant suffered from there being too many betas. There were so many play tests and technical tests and betas for this game, and like those do serve a purpose. But when you have so much pre-content for unreleased game, by the time the actual game comes out, people have already played the game enough to not even care. Especially when everything resets. Like the beauty of the Smite Alpha. Let's go Smite. The Smite Alpha is a full game, so everything you do in the Smite Alpha carries over to like the full release. When the full release of Smite comes out, nothing changes for you. You've been playing the game already. The release is just for everybody else. The same thing comes like Smite 1. I played this first Smite game since the very first closed alpha that game had. And so by the time that game left beta, was when it released on PS3, like I want to say a year and a half, 2 years after the first closed alpha. So it was like I've already had all the gods mastered at least once. I already had multiple gods mastered to diamond. It was like, but something like xDefiant, everything restarts. So after every freaking closed test, you're back to level 1, and then when the full game comes out, you're back to level 1. So when you have a game that has so many tests, because this game had a lot of tests, and then a full game comes out, you're like, do I really want to freaking play from level 1 again for a game I've put in hours upon hours into, because there's so many freaking tests for the game. So yeah, people, even when it first came out, if you were one of the people who played all those freaking those closed tests, those technical tests, those betas and alphas, you're already freaking like kind of fatigued of xDefiant.
pretty much saying if the player numbers don't increase by the end of season 3, they're ultimately pulling the plug on the entire project. So in today's video, we'll be discussing and figuring out why xDefiant is dying and can the devs turn this around.
The simple answer to like that, the latter question is yes, they can turn it around, but that turning around is going to be based on external things. For example, Call of Duty has to die, not die, but like fail. Black Ops is Black Ops is going to be the most played game of the latter half of this year. And with the being Game Pass, it's basically a free game. If you have Xbox and PC, Black Ops is basically a free game. xDefiant is also a free game, but more free than they say Black Ops. So it's gonna be really hard to compete with Call of Duty, and that's what this game's direct competition is. Like if you're a niche shooter, you don't have to worry about Call of Duty. Like for like a battle royale, you don't have to worry about Call of Duty because you have something about you that's unique that other people are going to be drawn to because you're not Call of Duty. Like if you're Apex, your Legends and your how Apex plays will draw people to keep playing Apex regardless of Call of Duty coming out. Then it comes like Fortnite. But when you're xDefiant, you are a direct competitor to Call of Duty, and you're directly taking time away from Call of Duty players leveling up. Call of Duty players don't want to miss out on any form of new skins that come out. They also don't want to miss out on keeping up with everybody else. Those levels matter because those levels dictate your attachments, being able to be on your gun, your perks that you unlock, and prestige. People are gonna want prestige at least 6 times before they decide to play other games. So like Black Ops is the biggest reason for why this game will struggle. And it's just, that's what competition is. When we have competition, there's a strong chance that you'll fail. And we saw with NBA Live. NBA Live came back and still failed. Why? It wasn't a bad game. Most people who play NBA games were like, NBA Live is actually way better than 2K. But 2K has such a strong foothold in the, in the basketball community to where it's like NBA just couldn't compete. And that's kind of what you get at when it comes to like these kind of games. So you can't compete, and xDefiant will not be able to compete with Call of Duty. Even if Black Ops 6 suck, xDefiant can't compete because it's just Black Ops is just too popular. Call of Duty is too popular, and you're asking people to basically relearn how to play a different game, because people who will believe Call of Duty will have to learn how to play xDefiant, and people who play xDefiant have already mastered the game and mastered how the game plays, mastered what guns are the best guns to use and things like that. All that stuff matters.
A couple of days ago, I dropped a tweet on the community board of xDefiant. Also, if you aren't following me on Twitter, go drop a follow at Haney2Goon_. But in my tweet, I said the fall off of xDefiant needs to be studied. And a good amount of people chimed in to give their opinion on why the game isn't doing a good job at retaining its player base. And boy, there are a lot of good responses, and a lot of the responses share the same sentiment with one another. One of the comments I got on that tweet was from Henry M. This person said that they caved into complainers, patched the game to oblivion instead of prioritizing netcode, and people left. And I gotta say, I somewhat agree with this tweet. The devs over at xDefiant listen to community feedback a lot, and sometimes it may feel like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's amazing that the
Well, it is. And this is the issue we have in Rainbow Six Siege. Was a coincidence, a Ubisoft game. Now, every developer has this problem. When developers rebalance a game, they're heavy-handed, and it goes both ways. If they buff something, they overbuff it. If they nerf something, they overnerf it. That's the issue when it comes to like developers, because they just look at the base of what a complaint is when it comes to the community, and they go, all right, that's the complaint. Let's just entirely kill that gun or that attachment or that character if you're playing a game like Rainbow Six Siege. So like they're heavy-handed, rather they heavy-handed with a buff, heavy-handed with a nerf. And something that TBH has also mentioned too when it comes to the fact that xDefiant had a massive cheating problem. You have a lot of cheaters, people leave your game. That's just what happens. I haven't played Rainbow Six Siege in months because of cheaters. I love that game. I played that game since the very, very first beta test. But I don't want to play with cheaters. So it's just like, I'll just not play at all. And xDefiant, a free-to-play game, has a lot of cheaters. So a lot of people are just like, I'm not playing the game. Especially considering the fact that xDefiant is, from the beginning till now, has always been cross-platform between PC and console. So console players are like, I'm not playing against PC cheaters. They're just like, I'm going to play something else. And yeah, they can face those in freaking Call of Duty as well, because Call of Duty also has freaking, full freaking crossplay. But Call of Duty actually allows you to turn it off. I don't know if xDefiant has a turn off crossplay option. I think it does. But most people aren't going to go look for it. The Call of Duty, they'll look for it because it's, it's just in the basic freaking settings. But when it comes to other games, people are lazy and don't do that. They just want to be able to plug and play.
Players, but on the other, I feel as though some of the nerfs, especially to movement, was simply because they are in a sense peer pressure to cater to those players who really just suck at the game. And let's just be honest, movement and no SBMM are the main selling points for this game. Another person responded to my tweet saying, easy, look what happened to Halo Infinite. It's almost the same exact thing with player count from launch to now. The exact same issues with netcode bugs and lack of content. And just like with the last tweet, netcode is mentioned. And I gotta be honest, xDefiant's two biggest issues is the netcode and the lack of content. And the rest of the tweets pretty much share the same sentiment. It's just not fun constantly dying behind corners because the server cannot keep up with all the player inputs.
We had that issue. We even at this point, I don't know, I gotta look to see when this video's uploaded. When last played xDefiant a few days ago, I had got shot when I was like well behind a freaking wall. And this game doesn't have like that level of bullet penetrations where you can get shot through what I got shot through. Like it was like a container, a wall, and it was a latency death. Like that's what I call it. I was like wall latency death. And it's like, that's because of the netcode. On that guy's screen, I'm still probably like, in shot of him being able to shoot, even though I'm well like away from him, and that's because of the netcode. You can't. This is why, like I say, shooters that have bad netcode and bad connection and have like all these compensators, flinch, lag, comp, long TTKs that exist to intentionally allow for less mechanical skill players to get kills. When you have all these things, you have a random game. When you have that random game, you have less skill. You have less skill, people take it less serious. which could be by attention when it comes to casual players, but people who are more hardcore, people who care more about their own personal statistics, things like that, they'll just abandon the game entirely because they don't want to play a game that feels random, where it feels like, okay, I'm dying because essentially just this person's lucky, or because of the net code and things like that. And again, if you're a competitive person, that frustrates you. You go play something else.
Really stale right now. Let's just break down what we've gotten with the launch of Season 1 so far. They dropped a new faction, GSK, which in my honest opinion is very underwhelming compared to all the other factions. They dropped 3 maps, 2 arcadey, 1 linear. And if you're someone who plays a lot of escort or zone control, you in reality only got 1 new map, Daytona, and a new faction that again is pretty underwhelming. And if you're someone who plays a lot of TDM, hotshot, domination, etc., you in reality only got 2 maps, Clubhouse and Rockefeller, and again, a very underwhelming faction. These are just some of the issues that have caused many players to run away from xDefiant.
Yeah, that's also kind of the issue when it comes to the fact that when you make new characters, they have to be able to compete with the existing characters, and have to make the existing characters, feel like you kind of want to power creep. Like power creeping is kind of, bad, but you kind of want to power creep because it validates the new characters. So in this context, when you added freaking GSK, budget IQ and team freaking blitz, you get a situation where it's like, okay, are either of them better than running cleaners? Right now, people are playing cleaners a lot because of the passive ability of having their bullets, where their bullets do fire damage over time. Then you have the walking UAV, aka Echelon. Is the GSK better than Echelon? No, they're not better than cleaners either. Are they better than the Phantoms? Who are basically the tanks of the game? They're kind of in the same boat, where it's like they're going to be like an acquired taste, where neither of them are like the meta, unless you're someone who really enjoys being able to defend with the defend wall or the riot shield. Then DedSec. DedSec is one of them classes where it's just like you got to be really into like the idea of DedSec to really care about it. DedSec is definitely the weaker of the launch classes. But again, when a new class comes out, it's like, are you competitive? Like at the end of the day, all these games are, when it comes to playing online games, it's going to come down to competitiveness. And the GSK is not competitive. Like it's not offering what the cleaners offer. It's not offering what Ashton offers. Like those are the 2 big ones. Think about Libertad. Libertad has healing abilities. It's not competing with that. So like when it comes to Season 2, they need to come out with characters who are literally going to change up how people see the game, how people play the game when it comes to the base characters. R6 had the same problem. With R6, when they came out with new characters, it was like, okay, is that new character better than Ash? People still play Ash. Is that character better than Jaeger? Jaeger was still getting played until he entered the ground. Is this character better and more viable than running Sledge? That became an issue. It's like the newer characters just didn't really matter until like there was like, I want to say until Cavetta came out, maybe. Because Capital, he became meta for a little bit, mostly in the pro scene, not so much in like the regular game speed. But Cavetta and then they came out when they had Jackal come out as well. He kind of changed up a little bit. Like there was always at least one of the new characters who was like the power creep that came in that actually changed up how the game's played a little bit and became like a must-have use player. Cavetta's a meme. And, like she's very, very used in like the lower tiers of Siege, but like she's a meme in a pro scene and high tier. But the way her gadget worked, back then, it was like, this is something different from everyone else. So, that's what this game's gonna have to go through. So they're gonna have to go through like a design change where it's like you have to make characters who are so much more unique than what's on offer. People are drawn to them, and that their abilities are so good to where you have to use them. A lot of developers, what they'll do is they'll make overpowered characters, and then after like a week or two, they'll nerf bad characters so people actually start spreading the wealth out and go back to using other characters.
Now, I briefly want to talk about how bad xDefiant ranked is. I can't believe I'm saying this, but xDefiant actually somehow managed to drop a worse rank system than Apex Legends. And if you guys are familiar with Apex Legends ranked, you guys know that is a piece of dog shit. xDefiant Ranked is the epitome of what ranked should not be in any competitive scene. But ranked is also the perfect example of trying to please your audience a little too much. If you guys remember, Mark Rubin and the team said they would be dropping ranked a week after the season 1 launch. They didn't say why, but I'm 100% sure it was to make sure ranked is functional. And well, it wasn't. Once it was announced that rank wouldn't be coming until the following week, the fan base pretty much pleaded with xDefiant to drop rank early, and they caved in. And not only did they cave in, the rank system was in shambles, with cheaters, poor connectivity, game-breaking bugs, and basically turning into, if you're not running Phantom, you're pretty much selling. So again, ranked really was just not good. It really left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. Right now, for a game to succeed in 2024, it has to have a lot of content for the casuals and a good slash decent rank system for these tryhards and the sweats. And as of right now, xDefiant does not have either of those. But not all hope is lost. Data miners and leakers actually have said xDefiant does plan on bringing more content into the game, like new weapons, maps, factions, and more to grind for. If you guys want to learn more or are interested in hearing about these alleged leaks, again alleged, because none of this is confirmed by Ubisoft or Mark Rubin, check out my boy Zai. He just uploaded a video interviewing one of the data miners within xDefiant. If the team can execute these drops perfectly, they definitely can revive the game and sustain a healthy amount of players. And I'm definitely rooting for the team over at xDefiant, but I also want to be brutally honest about the poor state that the game is currently in. But other than that, that pretty much wraps up today's video. But what do you guys think? Can xDefiant turn things around, or is this game DNR? Do not resuscitate. I would love to read and listen to all your guys' comments and opinions on the current state of the game.
All right, solid video. We'll leave it a like. Check it out. As always, you should always check out the original creator of any video, not just the person who you're watching. Watch that video. As I say, xDefiant it has that issue where it's competing with a game that it's chasing a ghost. Yeah, the saying in sports where it's like you're chasing a ghost. Basically, what that means is you, no matter what you do, you'll never be better than who's ahead of you. So like in a lot of people's eyes, LeBron would never be better than Jordan. Let's look at xDefiant as LeBron and Call of Duty as Jordan. It's chasing Call of Duty, and it's not going to freaking be able to see at surpassing Call of Duty in no metric. The same thing happened with Battlefield. Battlefield has kind of died trying to chase Call of Duty. So xDefiant has to freaking like be its own game and not try to like, market itself or be marketed by other people as this Call of Duty killer or Call of Duty this game who's going to take on Call of Duty players as refugees so they can enjoy a classic style Call of Duty game. Be your own game. And when it comes to like the real stuff, like the things that actually matter, they do need to fix the netcode. They need to fix the rank mode. They do need to fix, a lot of the issues that people who actually play the game has been talking about. When it comes to like listen to like caving into complainers, in a lot of ways, those people aren't actually playing the game a lot. Those people are looking for the game to be easier on themselves, not necessarily be easier on the community. They're looking for like if it's people asking like bust and nurse. You gotta like dissect why they're asking for those buffs and nerfs. Is it because they themselves are struggling, or is it because like it's actually affecting the game as a whole, and everyone's affected by it, not just one individual? Because a lot of people just talk out their ass and talk for their own experience. They don't care about how 1,000 people are playing the game. They care about how they are playing the game and how the game affects them. It's very like single-minded when it comes to how gamers respond to like things in video games. So for developers, you have to try to figure out who's complaining with validity and who's complaining because they just bad at a video game. A lot of people who complain because they're bad at the video game, and those people tend to be who developers listen to. And xDefiant has been a victim of that. They've made changes to the game because people who are bad at the game were saying these things, and it's like, all right, well, we'll change that and that. Even comes like the rank system. The developers knew the rank wasn't ready. They knew that the rank was going to be buggy. But people kept bitching and moaning about it to like come out early. So like, fine, here's a go. If something's not ready, just don't release it. Who cares if the players are saying we want this right now? If it's not ready, don't release it. Anyways, we need to play some New World, so let's get into that.